Hey, welcome out to another episode of Windshield Time at Mountainland Supply. Here with Brandon, our CEO.
Hey, everybody.
We're also here with Shorts.
Yeah, you are.
That's enough. And it's just Brandon and I today talking to you about our bonus program that we have going on. So we kind of outlined it at the beginning of the fiscal year where we said that we were going to do something a little bit different.
Yep.
Try and get money into the hands of people in the company a little bit faster and a little bit more often.
Yep.
Instead of just doing one fail swoop at the end of the year, hey, September rolled around and here's something, right?
Yeah.
Spreading it out, I think it may not make it as meaningful because it's not as much in one lump sum, but it spreads it out so that it can get into your hands faster and be a little bit more useful throughout the year.
Yeah.
At the same time, it helps the company just with cash flow. So there's multiple reasons for doing it, and we're going to try this out and see how it works. I think it's going to help us stay on track on a quarter-by-quarter basis, help us stay on budget quarter-by-quarter, and we're kind of already seeing that.
Yeah.
This first quarter of the year has been interesting, where the first quarter of most every other fiscal year, it's kind of like, okay, we have a new budget, so let's get everything we need from that's in the budget, and we're just going to front load everything, be it equipment or facility management, whatever it ends up being. It's like that first quarter ends up being loaded with a bunch of capital expense and regular expense. And by doing this quarter by quarter, it's helping us stay on track for our bonus, if we're on track for a bonus, that means we're on track on our budget.
Yeah.
So the first couple months of this year, we were a little bit off on our budget, and we're kind of understanding a new process. So it was a little bit, I guess, expected by us.
It's a learning curve, right?
Yeah. But in October, that was our first month that we were really on budget legitimately.
Yeah. So we're as we record this today, we're still waiting for October to close out, but we've done some preliminary forecasting, kind of
some conservative plug numbers.
Yeah, where we think that we know where the numbers are going to fall,
right?
Where they're going to get to. So looking at that, we had a good October.
Yeah.
And with our budgeting process, it is kind of, that August, it was like, okay, I still think, from year end, we had a lot of things bleed over
some rollover
into August.
Yep.
September was a little bit better because we've changed some few things. We have different directives going on right now. So you saw a little bit of change in September. October was kind of the first month that it's like, okay, it's finally clicking.
Yep.
Like we're going in the right direction all 3 months, but it's just like October was great, and we're expecting November and December to be that as well.
Yeah.
And when we started looking at the numbers for the first quarter compared to first quarter of last year,
amazing.
We had a huge improvement.
Yeah.
And so, and honestly, you have to take a step back and ask yourself, okay, is that because of the things we're changing, or is that because of economics?
Yeah.
Is that the economy has changed? And I would probably submit that I think the economy is pretty close to the same that it was last year that it is to this year. So I think a lot of it is the different programs that we've put into place and different directives that we've kind of done. And hopefully most of you have heard about those. We're really focusing on the budgets.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The budgets in years prior, we've always done budgets. We started doing them probably 10 years ago, 9 years ago. But they kind of got into a place where we were putting them together, but it wasn't a really meaningful tool that we were using within our company.
Yep.
And so over this past summer, we were talking about that as an executive team and saying, okay, what are the things that are really holding us back? Why is it not useful? And it really came down to, first of all, we're putting a whole year's budget together and then we don't change them.
Right.
And so, and usually, as you kind of alluded to, that first quarter, you're kind of off and it doesn't make sense. Right. And so people just forget that they have this budget. And then the other thing with them is they weren't showing us really current. They weren't showing us or reflecting current economy, what's going on, the conditions that are going on. Because again, we won't allow you to change them. And so, you're putting them together. Our managers put them together in July, and then we're expecting the a whole year later, the
Yeah.
July following, that you knew exactly what's going to happen. And it's just, that's too much to ask
Yeah.
for someone to do that. And so we said, okay, we're going to take a step back on this and we're going to kind of regroup on this. We think that it's a useful tool to have. And so what we've started to do is we're actually looking at it quarter by quarter. We're actually looking at month by month.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is it's not just our executive team looking at it. We're going and we're bringing a bigger group in. We're actually bringing all the senior directors in, essentially. So it's kind of that next group right below our executive team, everybody that reports to someone on our executive team.
Yep.
We're talking to them and we're bringing them in. And so there's 16 of us and we're having these monthly meetings and we're holding ourselves accountable to the budgets of what's going on. And then we're allowing some tweaks quarter by quarter to make sure that it actually reflects what's going on in the current economic conditions so that we get real numbers, true numbers that we can rely on and actually perform to.
Well, and we want to always be cognizant of the fact that the shareholders of this company are the employees.
Exactly.
And so, that gives us a lot of latitude to be able to adjust things and to set an intent and then to follow the intent. So our intent is to stay on budget.
Yeah.
And our intent is to make sure that we're holding our expenses to what they should be and not overloading them and not being, and I wouldn't even say irresponsible. It's just that it wasn't meaningful before because everybody would just take, okay, well, I have this much money in my budget. I'm just going to divide it by 12 and that's my budget.
Yep.
Now, as we're doing this quarter by quarter, it's more meaningful in smaller chunks. And so people are able to say, you know what, that first quarter of the year, I need this much for my expenses. And then that next quarter, I'm going to need this much. And it changes because of the seasonality of the year.
Bingo.
And so now we can mirror what are usually slower receivable months or higher receivable months, and we can budget accordingly.
Yep.
And we have a little bit better handle on it if we do it by quarter. And as we do that, I think it just makes us a better company. And we recognize that we doing it the other way allowed us to create a situation where we weren't able to bonus people the way we wanted to last year.
Yeah.
And in order for us to do what we want to do, contribute to the ESOP, grow the ESOP, and still get money in the hands of our employees throughout the year, we needed to do something different.
Yep.
And so here we are.
Yeah. And budgets it's a great industry practice.
Sure.
Like for any good business, we should have budgets. We should put numbers out there. And these are not numbers that are goals. Those are different.
Right.
A sales goal will be different than a budget number.
Absolutely.
Because those goals will typically be a little bit higher for revenue.
They're
maybe
reach
expenses
goals.
Might be a little bit lower than what we have in budget. Budgets are supposed to be numbers that as realistic as what we expect the outcome of this company to be. That's
Right.
what we want them to be. The other thing too that I failed to mention, my mind went kind of blank a few seconds ago, but the other thing about these budgets too is we've gone through a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we were doing really well with the budgets, I felt like, all the way up until the pandemic.
Yeah.
We probably still weren't utilizing them. And this is being brutally honest on ourselves. We probably were not using them as effectively as we should have, or we could have. But then we got into the pandemic. And I remember we were putting forecasts together just for, we had to put forecasts together for the board. We had put forecasts together for the trustee, for the valuation company. And the banks, things of that nature. And I'm not kidding you, the next month after we would put that out, it'd be totally blown up because we'd be outperforming, things would be totally different, things of that nature. And through that pandemic, just because of all the external pressures that we had, it was so difficult to even put a budget together or a forecast together.
And to hold to it.
Yep. Because there were so many different changes that were going on. And one of the things that we're noticing is, I would say this last year, we kind of saw it, we're getting back to the pre-pandemic.
Yep.
And so we're getting back to those numbers. We're getting back to the profitability that we had pre-pandemic, which was not what we saw during pandemic.
Lower than what the pandemic allowed.
Significantly lower than what we saw in the pandemic. And so we're kind of getting back to that where now hopefully the numbers are a little bit more predictable.
Yeah.
And they're easier to budget, easier to forecast. And so this next year we kind of really, most of you have probably heard this. I hope you've heard this from your supervisors, your managers, things of that nature. This next year, so from August all the way till this July, we're really just focusing on the basics.
Yep.
We're going back and we're getting good at the basics again. We're trying to get back to how we ran the company pre-pandemic, instead of how was pandemic, we were just kind of holding on for dear life and trying to just manage this through this thing that was pure craziness, to be honest with you, to where we get a little bit more predictability that's going on. A little bit, the profitability is, we're not going to be as profitable. We know that. And we just saw that in this last year. So we're trying to get back to that. So we're saying we got to get back to the basics again, how we ran the company pre-pandemic. And so that's why you're seeing us budgets. We're going to be focusing in on budgets. We're going to expand that responsibility now to another group, more people, so that they have more of a say. They have an understanding, a better understanding, and so that they can help. They have even more of a reach with within our company to be able to help us with that.
Yeah.
So this next year is going to be really interesting, focusing in on these basics. Budget is the biggest one. Now, because it's so important to us, we're basing our bonus around that.
Yep.
And so, bonuses are a difficult thing. I'm going to be honest.
They're hard.
It has been probably one of the hardest things to do in this position, as a leader of this company, is to figure out bonuses and how to do bonuses. I'm going to remind everybody, our bonuses that we pay out are discretionary. And people, what does that mean? What does discretionary mean? Well, that means that there's really no guaranteed bonus at all within our company. A bonus is usually within our company, it is reviewed by and it's calculated by the executive team. And then we submit it to the board and they approve it.
Yep.
And they give their thumbs up or thumbs down on it.
Yeah. And it's usually a dollar amount.
It's a dollar amount. It might be a percentage that we say, hey, we're going to do this much of eligible wages, things of that nature. We kind of look at it. But really what we're looking at is the profitability of the company and saying, what can the company afford to pay above and beyond normal wages, salaries, because it's not guaranteed. Like you have your salaries and wages. If I go work for an hour, I know I'm going to get paid this. This is my hourly rate. This is above and beyond that at the discretion of the management team and the board. That's what a discretionary bonus is.
Yep.
Now, in the past, what we've done is we said, well, here's a number, a percentage, 8.3333%. Well, that's a discretionary amount that we put out there. That's our goal. That's what we would like to achieve. But that's if the company is fully profitable and we meet all of our goals at the end of the day.
We exceed all of our goals.
Exactly. Yeah. Then we can pay that kind of a bonus out.
Right.
In this last year, honestly, the profitability wasn't there. We were still profitable. I think that's a misconception too. I've heard a few people out there saying, oh, Mountainland's not doing that hot, or Mountainland's going to go bankrupt. We're not going to go bankrupt. We are still a profitable company.
Above and beyond any other peer in our industry.
We are exceeding the industry still, but we're not to the level that we can pay a full bonus out. Right. That we could, this was our target, this was our goal, this is what we want to be able to pay out. And so this last year we said we can pay a partial bonus with that. Yep. And that's looking at the profitability of the company and also the cash flow of the company.
Yep.
There's two different aspects, and we've talked about that, I think, in previous podcasts. So going forward, looking at this, remind everybody it's a discretionary bonus. And honestly, there's not going to be a certain percentage that we're putting out there. There's not a certain dollar amount that we're putting out there. Really, it's going to be the quarter ends up, or we end the quarter, we wrap it up as an executive team, also within some collaboration with the next group down, the other senior directors.
Yep.
We're going to be looking at the profitability of the company and say, what can the company afford?
To divide up evenly as a percentage to the employees.
Yep.
To the participants.
So we don't have a set number that we have out there that we're going to publish or anything of that nature. And honestly, I think we're going to move away from a monthly, we're on track, off track, because I think if we bring it down to a quarter, that's close enough to be able to know whether or not, and you can hear from us, from our management team, this is, we made it.
Yep.
Awesome. We're going to be paying a bonus, or we didn't make it because we were off budget.
Right.
Now, this first quarter, we've elected to say, hey, we are going to pay a bonus. That was announced at the end of year party.
Yep.
And, really it's looking at the end of year or the end of quarter numbers and saying, this is where we're at. Now, really going forward, it's going to be, do we meet our budget or not? Are we on budget or not?
Yeah.
This quarter, we're still off budget. But again, it's a discretionary bonus. And what we feel as a management team is we've made a lot of progress through this first quarter.
Everybody.
Yep. And because of that, we feel like a bonus needs to be paid.
Yeah.
Or needs to be
We
paid.
can see the trend that is happening, and because of that trend, we feel it's appropriate to bonus everybody.
Exactly. It's appropriate. We don't need to, but it's appropriate that we do pay
absolutely.
that. And so there's going to be a bonus paid out. And so, and every quarter it's going to be like that. We're going to get to the end of the second quarter. It's probably going to take us about a month to get all the quarter numbers, the numbers wrapped up, finalized, and then be able to have a discussion and meet together, collaborate, and then declare, hey, we're having a bonus for this quarter.
Yeah. So just as so everybody knows, the timing of the payout for this first bonus, we push the timeline up further than we will in the future, in future quarters, simply because of the holidays.
Yeah.
We want to have people to have that money in their pocket, and so they can spend it for the holidays.
Yep.
So the timeline was pushed up. Again, it's discretionary. We looked at it. We looked at the cash flow of the company to make sure that we could do it, and we can do it. So we're going to do it.
Yep.
That won't always be the same timeline that it pays out in future quarters.
Now, typically it'll probably be end of a quarter. It might be a month and a half before it pays out, or almost 2 months before it pays out. This one we're almost a full, just almost a little over a month.
Yeah.
And that, again, it comes back to just because it's the end of year, you got holidays coming up. We know everybody wants to be able to provide a good Christmas, things of that nature. So we're anticipating, let's get that out a little bit sooner so we can get that cash in your hands so that you can have a little bit more time with that. Because if not, I think when we started looking at it, it was like around the 20th.
It was the 22nd.
The 22nd.
Yep.
And for us, that's just a little,
too late.
You can't do much with that. If you're trying to do it for the holidays, and we don't want people to have to go buy something anticipating. Anyways, it just gets really convoluted. And we just said it would be best on us. And so our HR team kicks butt, and we're going to make Kim and her crew work a little bit harder for this, and to be able to get that though, so that everybody can benefit from that.
Well, and we realize that everybody has busted their hump for the first 3 months of this year. You have all responded. We've asked some pretty tall asks over the first quarter of the year, and you guys have responded.
Yeah.
And we can see that trend, and we're just appreciative. And so that's why it's coming out the way that it's coming out.
Well, and so again, we didn't meet our budget numbers per se. Well, we didn't. We just flat out didn't.
The last month we did, but the first 2 months we didn't.
Exactly. But we're seeing that trend. And really, to try and keep that momentum going, we recognize all the effort, blood, sweat, and tears that you guys have put into this. And so really, to try and keep that momentum going, we want to incentivize. We want to put that bonus out there in front of you and be able to get that. So I think it's a great thing. I do love the fact of it's coming out quarterly. You're getting money out, and you're getting money in your hands a little bit sooner. You kind of alluded to a con to it that we've talked about. And, that end of year bonus is maybe a little bit more meaningful because it's a bigger dollar amount. If you take that and divide it by 4, I mean, it's not maybe as meaningful, or it could come across like that.
Yeah.
But you're getting the money sooner. And so we just want to caution everybody about that don't expect that it's going to be that same amount that you get at the end of the year.
There's not going to be a huge balloon at the end of the year.
It's not, but that's what you
we
get.
Elected to do that because we want to get you money faster.
Exactly. And now this also incentivizes us, instead of working on a whole year, now we're bringing that timeline a little bit smaller. Now we're working quarter by quarter.
Yep.
We're focusing quarter by quarter on the company and the performance of the company. And so I think it's going to be, the intent is that it's going to be better for everybody. I think it's going to be a win-win for the company, and it's going to be a win for our employees as well. So, and honestly, Joe, we're trying this out.
Yeah.
we might get to the end of this year and say, you know what, there were some things that we didn't recognize, some other cons that come out of the woodwork that we couldn't foresee, and we're going to go back to the yearly. I doubt it. I'm not a big.
That'll be due to a lot of feedback from everybody out there.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of let's implement something and then in a year take it away, because that's like the yo-yo effect. We're messing with people and with their mindsets, and that's not fair to everybody else to do that. So our intent's not to take it away, but if there's something drastic, I mean, we always, it's discretionary. We can do that. We can change it at any time if we want. And the only times that we typically change it is to try and benefit. We want it to benefit the company and benefit our employees.
Exactly.
So
thank you everybody for an outstanding quarter. We're excited for where we're going in the future, and keep on rolling.
And yeah, this next quarter, it's going to be, we got a lot of room to make up from prior year. We were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. Our executive team got together, and we can have a phenomenal second quarter as well. I think there's a lot there a lot of improvement that we can make. And I think the trends that we're seeing, the hard work that everybody's investing into this, I think we're going to see a lot of benefit from that for all of us, for the company and for our employees as we go along. So, great job on the first quarter. And honestly, I'm excited about the second quarter. I'm excited about the third quarter, excited about the fourth quarter. This is going to be, I think, very beneficial to our employees. And I'm excited about it. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it with everyone.
It's a great company we work for. It's a great group of people that we get to work with. And we're just excited to have this new program to hopefully benefit everybody a little bit more often. So thanks, everybody.
Yep. Have a good one.
All right. See you down the road, everybody. See ya.